like Bombad.
Welcome to the Bombadcast.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? You're at the Bombadcast. This is Jerry. This is the Canon Junkie. I'm glad you're here. It's nice to see you. You know, and we're just kind of hanging out. We're doing our thing. We're feeling really chill tonight. We're feeling real chill. We're gonna just sing you some. We're gonna play you some of the smooth hits. And joining me to do so is none other than the one and only member of the one of the many members of the one and only club, Mr. Scotty Jero. And
Hold on, pardon. Let me put out this death stick. Hey guys, we're here. We're feeling groovy.
we're chill.
know?
We're
We're chill. We're talking about we're chill as two Jawas on a sandcrawler, baby.
Don't go home and rethink your life. No,
No, just sit here and think about it in the moment, dog. I like this stoner thing we're doing. It's kind of odd.
it's kind of cool. But you know what? We should probably also introduce our guest joining us tonight for whatever the heck this is.
Yep.
It is none other than Mr. Pete Fletzer of Around the Galaxy podcast. Pete, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It doesn't sound like I'm doing as good as you guys, but I am definitely. I'm doing all right. You know, it's funny. You're the second person to refer to me as a lovely guest, and I don't know what that means. I was on Postcards from Galaxy's Edge, and she said my lovely guest. So I don't know if there's some connection, but it's nice to be thought of as lovely by two dudes who are having a party. It's good. I know where that goes.
Hey, man, that's how it is. Yeah, you know, just buckle in because this is kind of how it goes. So, no, you know, and also the connection there, Pete, is that I am the navigator.
I know it.
Postcards. So that's probably no. It's because you're such a you have such a lovely soul. We're so glad that you're here. So all good vibes.
This is gonna be a great episode, y'all. We have a lot in store for you. Real quick, Jerry, you got anything you want to update us on?
Not much. You know, guys, I've been at the spice mines of my local town, just working away, chiseling away, making a nice living. So I've been doing pretty much nothing except for working for the weekend, baby. And even when the weekend comes, I'm working again.
Working, yeah, exactly.
That's just how it's been going. But don't wait, man. All the Star Wars news and things that have been like kind of hitting me, hitting all of us, has really kept me going.
It's been insane.
I've been doing I don't know. That's been keeping me alive. So that and the love of my family. So
Yes.
Well, close second to Star Wars, but it's close. It's close.
Exactly.
well, yeah, you get it, Pete. See you.
I do.
We've been getting some maxi Bombad love from our YouTube comments recently.
That we have. Oh, you mean the ridiculous comments or the?
Well, so my quick update is school's been going great, people. We have a fair next weekend for our school, and I'm prepping for that. The kids are going to be literally insane. So I'm looking forward to that this week. It's going to be fantastic. But no, with that being said, another insane thing is the fact that we've gotten over 200,000 views on our Bombadcast reaction video for the Rise of Skywalker trailer that I posted August 5th. I don't know what happened in the past 6 weeks to bring us here, but I have a feeling it was the Adopt a Snoke program, all the comments that drove that for some reason the YouTube algorithm was like, okay, let's do this. And it we have been getting over, I don't mean to give our data away, but like at least 30,000 views every 2 days. It's been insane.
It's been crazy.
But on top of that, we've been getting a lot of wonderful, pleasant comments and a lot of terrible, horribly mean comments.
What are you talking about? Those are the most fun. They're so
They
hilarious.
actually are.
Because
They're
they
ridiculous.
can't they cycle through the same 3 insults, and it's so funny to see how unoriginal they are.
I'm fat, and I've seen some Spanish typing people write gordo, so I'm gordo and fat.
I saw Virgiones or something. the other day, so-
Virgiones. So
That's another
we're all-
virgins. We've been called virgins in at least 3 languages.
Yes,
Well, that means it's working.
that's pretty.
I guess so.
The
I guess
podcast
so.
is working. Yes.
That's
think
exactly.
that-
That's all it means.
I think the best sequence of words I've seen is I'm a fat diabetic. I'm a fat diabetic virgin who works for Microsoft. So I'm doing pretty good. I mean,
dude.
let's be real here.
We've been called like paid Disney actors.
Oh man.
I wish they would pay me.
I was gonna say,
we just got another comment. They get excited and then let down. This is real time, guys. Hold on. I want to do this. They get excited and then let down with a bunch of laughy faces. They obviously don't know us because
We're about to talk about something they might really hate.
most likely.
What is it
anyway.
about? Why do people have to get? I seriously don't understand taking such pleasure in just being such a jerk. I guess is the most polite way to put it. I don't know where you guys.
You can
are
say
on
dick. It's okay.
Okay, that's where I was going.
Because I'm just right now like there's no other word.
I just seriously, I just don't understand it. It's I don't know. And I'm not saying I'm a particularly good or bad person, but I don't see the value in wasting any energy in my life. You know, my life is a little too busy. And I think, as John Hoey puts it, I got bills to pay, so I'm not going to be. This is not where I'm going to spend my energy. So
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like I've been seeing it on other people's stuff before, and it's like that'll never happen to me. And then when it does, it's actually not that bad. Like I got people that are friends of us that are like, man, I want to go back and comment all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, it's not worth it,
Yep.
because it's like you're just playing into them. But I mean, the majority of the comments, and not to give anything away, but we're gonna have a segment for each show based on some of the most There's some that are so unbelievably ridiculous, that are like incoherent and that are just typed with a fury of passion. It's amazing.
it's like that that cat gif that's just slamming the keyboard. That's why I always think of it.
Yes. Oh, I wish you could use GIFs so bad. That's the only thing. YouTube, if you're okay, if you're listening to our YouTube version, YouTube algorithm, please add GIFs. I don't know if that'll work. I'm putting it out into the YouTube universe. But gosh, we got one. Speaking of why waste your energy, I got one the other day that asked us why we expended so much energy for that. Why did you?
Yeah.
But
Like
it's just one of those things. And my favorite interaction I had one of them was coming at us, and I just said, "Hey, your mom says your hot pocket's ready."
yeah.
And he said, "Oh, good, I've been waiting on that." And we just kind of went back and forth for a minute. So it ended positive, I guess. So
Yeah, in its own weird way. Pete,
Yeah.
how have you been? Everything okay with you, bud?
Well, yeah, I guess so. You guys know, I had a little bit of an interesting Twitter experience a week ago, and having to do with an interview that I was going to post. I think it's probably.
Yeah.
I would go into it, but I think it's still a little bit. It's a little bit. It was a strange situation. It was definitely not. It had to do with an interview that I was going to post regarding an interaction very similar. I will say this about it. So ultimately, long story short, is I was going to post an interview that I had done with a guy who is a growing voice in the Fandom Menace, because
Yes.
a number of his minions came after me about about a couple weeks before that. And the long story short is that instead of getting into another comment war with them, we both said, why don't we get on the show? And we did, and we were going to post it. And then the amount of backlash on both the side of the people that are attacked by the Fandom Menace.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it, as well as the people on the Fandom Menace side who claim not to have that affiliation with the attackers. It got so nasty on both sides that I made the decision, good or bad, better or worse, to not run it. And as I was saying to you guys before, if I've learned nothing else from this experience, I'm a fairly well-adjusted person, and I'm very fortunate to sort of have my shit together for the most part. But I can absolutely see where these sort of Twitter wars can really have a horrible effect on people who are either, honestly, I think what I said to you guys before was people who are either in a very fragile state, or frankly, people who are, one tweet away from their own sort of manifesto and walking into a movie theater with a gun. So it's a scary place to be. And so it was a very interesting experience that I'm right now. I'm still trying to get my head around it at this moment, where the plan is not to run the show, but I'm considering all the options and not, I want to be as mindful and courteous to as many people as I can. There's a great deal of people who, I don't want to, you never want to take credit for a negative thing, but I feel like when Molly Damon had made a comment on my thoughts about posting, it turned into this Twitter battlefield, and 24 hours later, Star Wars Explained began this sort of mass block, which caused more problems for them. And it's really interesting, because one of the things that I walked away from as well is, like, this is just Twitter about Star Wars, folks. It's not it's not politics, or
it's
life or death, or medicine. It's a fandom, and it's and that's kind of what got me through a couple days of just like, really being distressed about this, and it was just like, it is what it is. And as I was saying before, in jest, but there's always a sense of reality under it, is I don't understand what's going. People must have things going on in their life that they need to address if they're willing to put that much energy to watch your video, which is just meant to bring joy and remind people of some really great news, and they want to bash you for it, and that's pathetic. And the sad thing is that I think I learned is that it's absolutely on the the two ends of the bell curve for the fandom right now, and they both have bullhorns, and it makes some days just like, why am I checking Twitter today?
I completely understand it, man, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to come clear to the air and say that, because it's, I respect you either way. I respect it if you don't want to post, and I respect that you do post it. It's a interesting thing to see happen, and I'm sorry that on your end it was a little negative, but I feel like some people might want to listen to it, and maybe one day will be, even, and this sounds might be a little too much, but even politically, it's either completely this or completely that. And maybe one day in the near future, after the Rise of Skywalker, or even in a year from now, we might be able to just have it as, to see that conversation or hear how it went down, because I think it's necessary that people, not say hear their case, but like kind of see where someone else is coming from, even if it is super harsh and super negative. It's something that I think most people have now begun to like completely cut out. Well, if this person doesn't share the same opinion as me, it's not existent, Yep. And good for you for being bold. That's a bold move, and I think it was cool. What about you, Jerry?
Well, I definitely, it's whenever you kind of approach subjects like this, it's always, it's very shaky. I mean, you're like walking on Kawaki monkey lizard eggshells. Those are hatched from eggs, right? Sure,
They're not
they're lizards. But they got fur. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think. Look, I'm going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room again. Pete, I think you're a great guy and I respect you. And there was a time where I texted Scotty and I had been talking with someone from, I believe they're from the Phantom Menace. I was talking I'm at best. No, I was talking to someone from the Phantom Menace, and because I just struck up a conversation with him, and I was like, "Hey, maybe we should do something like what you were going to do to Scotty." And yeah, maybe. Well, the next couple of days, I noticed that person was just coming at, like we had friended each other, and they started like coming at even more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just the conversation we had meant absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And that was disheartening. So it's like, whenever I don't.
Well,
there's a lot to.
There's a ton to uncover, and you're right. There could be an entire show on it, but I think one of the things that is most important to me, first of all, like I said, is I understand now what a Twitter storm can do to a person.
Yes.
Number two, though, I think is really important, and again, this could put us down a long track here, but if you are going to fly a flag of whether it's Fandom Menace or Raylo or Republican or Democrat or Trump or Obama, you need to be prepared to accept what comes with that label, right? So when I drive down the street and I see somebody with a Trump bumper sticker, I think one thing. When I see somebody with an Obama bumper sticker, I think another thing. And it's what I bring to the table. And you need to be prepared that if you're going to say I am Fandom Menace, that you may not be a hateful, angry person who's made threats, and you know what? Probably 90% of them. I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but a percentage of them probably truly are just disappointed with where Disney is taking Star Wars. And you know what? If that's your position, that's great. But if you've put hashtag Fandom Menace in your stuff, you are associated with some of the ugliest parts of Star Wars fandom. And I think you just need to be prepared for that. That being said, I was disappointed that I didn't see any tweets from anybody who identified as Fandom Menace saying, wow, if that's really what happened to you, that really sucks, and I'm sorry, but I'm not that way. It was more about it was more about just either distancing themselves personally from it or not even addressing it. And again, it comes on from all sides, and it just so happens that this was the example, but again, I think two things. Here's Pete's Twitter lessons from a week ago. One, if you're not feeling strong, stay away from Twitter. And number two, if you're going to fly a Raylo banner or a Fandom Menace banner, and they're going to hate me for comparing the two, but those are two banners in our fandom right now.
Ben Demption. There's a lot.
Ben
You can actually
Demption.
name like 12.
Right.
Any position it can,
Yeah, if you're gonna get behind it, then if people disagree with you, you need to be prepared for what comes with the most extreme versions of your banner. So,
damn, good point. That's what I was looking to get out of you, because let's be real, we're a Jar Jar based podcast, and we have had yet to get attacked for being a Jar Jar based podcast. But
I'm
bring
about to start
it on. That's all I gotta say. Come on.
We really could. I mean, that's the thing, and like a lot of the podcasts we have grown friends with. I mean, we've seen them get attacked. We've seen their own fans attack them.
Right.
It's weird. It's this community is a wonderful community, and I'm so glad we've got you in it. Jerry's in it. We've got TRB, Alex, and Molly. We've got Black Series Rebels, Scare of Scuttle, but I can keep going. I mean, I can go Brad Whipple. All these people are really wonderful people.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate though that your name and your individuality is associated with, let's say, a particular group or a particular situation, and to have it be, and to have an issue with it is just, it's unfortunate, and hopefully you might have learned from what you did, and we'll learn from what you did too. It's just part of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pete.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, just let me go ahead and since I'm the one lifting these elephants here, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I'm sure I know I speak for everyone here tonight when I go ahead and say that we're all white guys too.
Yeah.
Right.
We all get it, and there is the part of that's the thing that some people are associated with from there that I know some people have problems with, and I want everyone here to know that none of us here condone any of that.
Absolutely.
At
not.
all.
Nope.
And any hate of any kind of group, anyone who is maybe not of, who is a different color, anyone who is of a different gender or lifestyle, anything. We are a circle of positivity and welcoming here, and we want you all to know that there is absolutely no reason for any of us would support anything like that.
Yeah, it's like what I ended up posting earlier last week about shortly after the kerfuffle, and that was there's sort of the do's and don'ts of fandom are you can be passionate, you can have conversations, you can have a difference of opinion, but just don't be a jerk. There's no reason to be a jerk about anything.
Exactly.
And more importantly, don't ever make threats and put anybody in a spot where they feel like they're in harm's way. Fandom is not a place to ever feel like you're in harm's way, and if that's the case, we've reached a very sad state of affairs.
You're in the wrong fandom if that's the
Yes.
case. Like, we've got people, and it's one. I mean, I'm not to be changing fandoms, but like, you go see a Marvel movie, and not a single person bitches about it. I'm being completely honest.
Yep.
Like, you don't hear a single. I mean, you might hear like one or two things, but like, there's no like with Star Wars, and
Yes, they have
and
those
this
dark
is one
corners.
thing. Star Wars fans hate Star Wars, and that might be the same for Star Wars content creators. It's touchy, but I'm glad that we can address it here and discuss it. But I guess real quick, if you have anything else to say, Pete, by all means say it. But if you don't want to, we can move on and get into more fun discussion here.
Yeah, no, I think I've said too much probably, so we'll see how this
No,
goes.
We all say too much, so
we'll find out.
Yes, we'll
let you
find
know.
out.
We'll see the data.
to
No,
end
but,
it. Well, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything thoughtful. I was going to say let's go on to the fact. Of the
Oh
day.
yeah. Well, before we move on to that, you know what, guys? We love everybody, and
Yep.
you are always welcome here. So, and I'm gonna start crying. So I'm gonna just stop.
It's okay.
If we weren't in 3 different locations, this would be a group hug situation, so
It would be.
we're good.
We'd all be talking into each other's shoulders and
Sobbing.
and crying a little
Right.
bit. Yes. No, Pete, thanks for that, man. I'm glad you can come and discuss and I guess voice your opinion too about all this. But
Cool.
Anyway, real quick, I want to go on to the Bombad fact of the show. And you know what? This one's an interesting one. We haven't been doing this every episode. Sorry about that, fans and fandom. But I want to touch a base on one thing with you, Pete. So, our Bombad fact of the show is that our guest here, Pete Fletzer, he has written and published a Phantom Menace fan fiction novel called Duel of Fates. And you did that within the past year or so, right?
Yeah, it was finished. My goal was to finish it just before Celebration. I had this mythical vision that people would be waiting in line and reading an ebook that I wrote, and I think there were 4 downloads. So,
I'm gonna probably get on it at some point. If you ever do an audiobook, I will personally give you $50 to do an audiobook. I'm not gonna lie.
well,
I love
I can't make
audiobooks.
money on it because it's a fan fiction, but I do appreciate it.
Oh,
You can send me $50 worth of Jar Jar
donate
Binks
you.
action figures or something.
there we go. No, speaking of,
speaking of which.
I want to ask you originally. I want to ask you why Phantom Menace.
Yeah, so when I was working for Star Wars Galaxy magazine, it was during the Phantom Menace time. It was
So awesome.
It was right before it came out, and I had the privilege of covering the New York premiere for Phantom Menace in New York City for Star Wars Insider, and that was an amazing event that I'll never forget. And
I couldn't imagine.
but it was interesting because I walked out of Phantom Menace, I've told this story before, but I'll share it with you guys as well. I remember walking out of Phantom Menace. No, geez, I'm going to keep calling it Phantom Menace, but it's Phantom Menace.
They're in our
Episode 1.
heads.
That's right. They win. Episode 1. I think so. It was a room full of celebrities, and as I'm walking out of the theater, Christian Slater was behind me, and I was always a big Christian Slater fan. And I thought to myself, when am I going to have an opportunity to talk to Christian Slater again? So I turned to him and I said, Christian, what did you think of the film? And he looks at me and he has no idea who I am, right? He's like, I'm just some overweight diabetes patient who works for Microsoft is all he knows. And he looks at me and he just says, visually stunning. And that was his only response. And what stuck with me about that is because that's kind of the way I felt as well. Was I didn't know what to think of the Phantom Menace when I first saw it. There's you could do a whole show, and I think you are doing some Phantom Menace show or something coming up. But so what always struck me about Phantom Menace was that it was I approached my passion project as sort of the looking at the Phantom Menace movie as if it was the film version of a book that you really loved, and they didn't quite get it right. And so I approached it like, first of all, I put myself in this time frame that didn't exist, this alternate universe where it was written before the film, but we knew as much as we do now. So there are the occasional references to things that come in later movies and things that happened in like Rebels and things like that. So, not overtly, but other than the fact that in my story, Sifo Dyas plays a pretty big role because it always struck me strange that this guy who apparently ordered the clones and led to the downfall of the Republic, we didn't even meet him until until we never met him actually, right? Until the Clone Wars.
No. Well, Clone Wars, yeah.
So that was strange. But so I wanted to write this book, and I had found a piece of fiction that I had written for something called the Star Wars Adventure Journal, which was when West End Games had the Star Wars role-playing game. They issued a quarterly book, and long story short, my story was to be published in the issue that was the last one, or the one that was going to go out when West End Games got out of the Star Wars business. So my story never saw the light of day. So I read the story though, and I said, I miss writing fiction. And I've always had this sort of vision of what I thought could possibly be done with Phantom Menace. And so I started writing it, and I sent my first couple chapters to my buddy out in California just to read. And I was like, hey, dude, take a look at this. Am I crazy? And he was like, you have to finish this. And it just became something. And next thing I knew, it was 123,000 words. So it's like a real novel.
Wow.
And so you'll find almost every character from the Phantom Menace in there, almost every line of dialogue. But I always kind of looked at the Phantom Menace as kind of a political intrigue film or story that tried to become a Star Wars film. So I spend a lot of time with Palpatine in the Senate, with Chancellor Valorum, with the Jedi trying to figure out what's going on and painting it that way. And so it was a lot of fun. And again, here's the thing. We were just talking about Phantom Menace saying, one of their things was to, create a campaign to redo Episode 8. This is in no way that. This is kind of a love story to the story. I don't change anything dramatically. I mean, there's a couple things where, again, I gave myself the freedom that it was a book that was written and the film went a slightly different direction. But it's all out of love for the story and just things that I wanted to know more about. And so I created them. That was probably a longer answer than you wanted, but...
what?
That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
But your novel is great and all, Pete, but it did not garner. How much money did that campaign to get Last Jedi redone? Oh, like $300 million. Billion.
Yeah. I was
sorry.
working toward it. Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. No, that always cracked me. I was like, where is this? Is this Monopoly money? What's going on here? But no, that's cool. It's a passion project, and that's what is so cool about it.
Yeah,
you really had this like passion. You were like, well, what if it went this way? You weren't like trying to say like I know better or I'm a better writer.
Yep.
Because
exactly.
For one thing, you're actually a writer.
Well,
so I think a lot of the people who post that online don't really know like what bad writing is.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, and the other thing too is I wrote it with George Lucas's script next to me the entire time, and I used that as my reference. It wasn't like I was like, oh well, there's no way that they would say this, so I'm going to have them say that. What I did, I fleshed out areas. Again, if you do get a chance to read it, and really believe me, there's so much great fiction coming out now. Reading this is a very low priority. But if you do, you will see that it's kind of, to me, again, some of it goes a little off canon because I'm not a canon junkie. I am, but so it might drive you a little crazy, Jerry. There are some, but ultimately it was just like, again, I went with this mindset that it was written a couple years before the movie came out, and it was, from, sort of like almost George R.R. Martin, his books versus Game of Thrones, the television series. So that same kind of thing, but not, I don't veer off quite as much as they apparently did. So
very nice.
Yeah. No, one thing I really wanted to bring up, being as we are Jar Jar affiliated, or we represent him, there's a lot of things that you saw in '99, which we could get into another day, that were very different, but than what we see today. That being said, when you were your age and you saw Jar Jar, it was probably very different than when you were my age. I mean, I was 5. Right. I was very little. Yep. Jerry was 12, and I really don't know your age, Pete, but I'm sure you were somewhere old enough to be able to write for a Star Wars magazine.
I was 29, almost 29 when it came out. Yep.
Okay, so at your age, what was your first, feeling about Jar Jar? I want to hear it because, you're a weathered Star Wars fan. You saw the original trilogy. It's awesome.
And, as a Jar Jar show, I want to definitely share one other little story with that before. Actually, so maybe before I get to that, let me just tell this. So when I was at the New York City premiere, and this is, it's funny, this kind of almost goes with what we were saying before about Twitter being an ugly place. I was, because Ahmed Best was in, I think it was Stomp on Broadway, so he's a New Yorker, and so he was at the New York City premiere, and he was like a giddy kid. He was so proud. I had the chance to speak to him really briefly. I didn't spend much time with him, but he was, it was funny watching him in the red carpet line. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody talked to him. But anytime somebody did, he was all smiles and he was excited. And I remember the one question I asked him was, I said, he asked me, he said, what did you think of the movie? And of course, I gave a very generic sort of, hey, it was great. It looked great. It was a cool story. And he goes, what did you think of that Jar Jar guy? And he was so proud of what he did. So it breaks my heart to watch what's happened to him or what did happen to him. But it makes it so much more satisfying to see him starting to get the love that he deserves. Look, so I'll answer your question in a second, but if you think about it, the role he played was the first full CGI character. That was groundbreaking.
Insane.
It's
insanity.
And it's funny. You do watch it now, and some of it doesn't hold up as well. But my goodness, it was an amazing thing. So what I thought of the character kind of went with a couple things that were going on when I saw the movie for the first time. So I went in with zero expectations, other than I knew Qui-Gon Jinn died because of the soundtrack. But I knew Qui-Gon's Noble End, track number whatever, near the end. Way to go.
Ridiculous. That's so
I can't wait to get the soundtrack with Kylo's Noble End in it. That's going to be great.
Could you imagine?
Don't open up any more cans on him.
That's right. I'm sorry. I'll step away. But so I had no expectation. It was funny when I was in this room with this amazing, beautiful theater in New York City with all these people who were so excited to see it that were also celebrities and this big deal. When the movie started and you had the Nemoidian accents, which kind of feel a little bit culturally insensitive. And then you had Jar Jar. I think there was sort of like what's going on here? And so, and not in like a vicious or angry way, but just sort of like, these are some weird choices. And So to answer your question, 22 minutes later, my response to Jar Jar was I didn't love him. I thought it was pretty interesting, to see him come to life on the screen. But to me, he was just overly goofy. However, I understood and went in with the mindset, or I'm not saying that other people don't, but I understood that George was making these movies for younger kids. I think the best thing you could say about Jar Jar Binks is on my show I do the in my 10 question segment, and one of the questions is I ask people what they like more, Ewoks, Jar Jar Binks, or Porgs, and most people have said Porgs, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But when I asked my 10-year-old daughter, she said, "Oh my God, that question is not fair." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I love all three," which proves to me that all these things that are in the films
adults
that aren't for adults, they're for her, and it worked. And in hindsight, I think it's amazing. The guy who I think needs the renaissance is Jake Lloyd. I think this guy, and I know he's gone through a lot of hard times, but
he has been.
But yeah, it's just great to see Ahmed starting to get. I say Ahmed like I'm friends with him. It's good to see Mr. Best getting his credit at this point, because it was Bill Sheehy, I think, who was on my show, who said that he didn't realize till college that people didn't like Jar Jar Binks.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I was Pete. I was 5, so Jar Jar was like the ideal character, and like I'll never forget, like. I had the gross, and now thinking about it's very weird, the Jar Jar with the tongue lollipop. I had that toy. And like, you don't, it's just, what they marketed, it was weird, but I mean, I like Jar Jar enough to French him.
I was going to say, can you imagine that like boardroom of like people like that room of people trying to think of like candy, like, all right, I got an idea. Maybe they were toking up some death sticks. Jar Jar, it's a lollipop, but it's Jar Jar's head, and he opens it. The lollipop is his tongue. Have them make out with Jar Jar.
And it was like had bumps on it. That was the grossest part. It was like texture.
It's very. It was very. And not even in the movies can you see that texture, but you can. Can you see the texture?
You can stick it in your mouth.
Have you even seen a tongue? Like there's not just like giant bumps, like pimples all over it. So, anyway.
I've been in marketing meetings. I can imagine they're like, okay, so here it is. It's Jar Jar Binks' head. We pop it open, and we're thinking of this tagline, something like "Suck the texture." Do you think that'll work for the kids? Will that go over well? I don't know. Yes, it was.
How many parents did that help to not?
Right.
Too. Right. Like, what do you want my kid to like? Come on.
Yeah, it's not right.
Well, and the funny thing is, there's very few marketing campaigns from my youth at such a young age that I can still see. Like, literally, if I close my eyes, I can still see the Taco Bell stuff. Yep. I can still see the Pepsi stuff. It's so weird that marketing that Phantom Menace, and especially Jar Jar and everything around it, has, like, permanently left an imprint on my brain. Yeah. It's so bizarre. And I can't imagine, Jerry, your age, being 12, like, very aware of the world around you. Like, it must have been such a bizarre experience.
Oh, it was a great time and stuff. I
couldn't imagine.
A little later, we can get into this a little later on in our discussion, kind of comparing of the the current era versus the prequel.
Yeah,
but it was just probably the best time ever. That I had like 3 fast food restaurants in town. I could go and see Star Wars stuff and see Star Wars stuff everywhere. I mean, there was
everywhere,
and it started back in '97 when the special editions came out, and I was getting nostalgic for that this week. Anyway, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, but I'll add to that, Jerry, because I lived through the dark times where
I
was 13 when I saw or 12 when I saw Return of the Jedi, and that was it for Star Wars. And as far as we knew, it was done. And,
it was done.
And then to have all this come back. So as a 12-year-old, you were pumped because you were old enough to appreciate it. As a 5-year-old, it was aimed squarely at your head, and
that's all I want.
Right, and as a 29-year-old, I was like, "This is great! It's back! My childhood is back!" So it was really brilliantly done. But so I want to add one more thing about the Jar Jar reception, and I'll tie it to my crazy fan fiction novel. I approached Jar Jar as a character that was more like a Steinbeckian Lenny from Of Mice and Men, where I wanted him to be. He was he was banished from his home world for being clumsy. He's in the story for a reason, and as we all know, he ends up naming Palpatine as Emperor. But he needed to play a role. I wanted him to be more sympathetic, and I think that may have worked more. He still could have been goofy, and it could, nothing. Well, I was going to say nothing against George, but George is admittedly not a great director. He's admitted it himself. He's even said The Phantom Menace is a hard movie to watch, but you could have a really creative director could have made Jar Jar somebody that an adult like myself would have understood where he came from, and a 9-year-old would be like, he's a funny floppy character. But
exactly,
but that's the way I approached him for my story. I do have to say the hardest thing I've ever written in my entire 49 years was trying to write Gungan style language for every single line that him and Boss Nass and all those guys. So
that's awesome. I mean, you bring a good point. It's odd because his character now, with everything that was released about him, it seems like he is more painted as like he just wanted to make people happy, and then no one was happy with him. And I really do think Jar Jar was a much bigger influence in the prequels, but never got to see the light of day. And I actually, never mind, I won't even get into it, because I recently have made, and you might have saw it, I made a huge tweet about the big three, but I just thought of something else. That was random. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Look, we're gonna move on. I will bring it up later, though.
We gotta plug that. We gotta plug the heck out of that. Okay. No.
Look, I want to go into one thing real quick, fellas. Pete, thank you for your response, man. I really liked hearing your point of view on Jar Jar, and I feel like our fans will as well, because we're a Jar Jar centric, and I think Ahmad Best is probably one of the best things to happen in the prequels, and unfortunately, he did not get his credit where it's due.
Right.
And our biggest goal, Pete, we've shared this with a couple other guests, we want Ahmad on this show more than anything else in the world, and we're going to need your PR skill, because you get the best guest. You got Nathan Hamill. So I think we're going to end up we might end up getting some PR help to make sure we get Ahmad. Might have to talk to some agents.
Man, we love you, buddy. We love you.
But anyway, look, I want to go into one thing with y'all, fellas, and this is huge. With that being said about everything recently with the news, we have just been destroyed with news recently. And one thing in particular I wanted to talk about, especially with this Disney era Star Wars, we've got this huge person that's going to be affiliated with Disney Star Wars, or just Star Wars in general now. And I'm talking about Kevin frickin' Feige, who has changed movie making in the past 10 years. I mean, how do y'all feel about that? I am, for one thing, unbelievably excited. What about you, Jerry?
Well, I know there's kind of like mixed feelings with some people. At least I saw on Twitter with Feige being announced. I'm a big fan of the MCU. I'm a big fan. Even if you're not a fan of what they do, you cannot. It's like people with Kathleen Kennedy. It's like, even if you don't like kind of what she's been doing with Lucasfilm, which they blame her for everything. She's not. But you have to admit that they're good. They're great producers, and
incredible producers.
Just what Feige has done, Feige and other people. I mean, Feige is the ultimate team builder.
Yeah,
is essentially what he is, and what he and others who he has recruited have been able to do with the MCU is a milestone in cinema. I mean, again, say what you will about the Marvel films. We personally like them here, but this is never when I was growing up did I think, oh yeah, we're going to be, someday someone's going to do like all this. They're going to take this entire run of comic book heroes and slap them all together. We're going to do all these individual superhero movies. It's all going to be a part of the same universe, and it's going to feel like a television show every year, episodes of a television show moving forward. It's unheard of, and people have tried and failed over the last 10 years. They've been trying it doing it to replicate it, and no one has
Yeah.
been able to the level that Marvel and Disney has.
Yeah, and I feel like to have the head honcho himself be a part of Lucasfilm would be nothing but good. But I mean, that's just my opinion. Pete, where do you stand on this, bud?
Yeah, I'm one of those ones that's in the middle. I don't want to be a naysayer, and
No,
I'm
I wanna hear
super
it.
excited to see the quality that he could bring. But I'm a big fan of the MCU movies myself, but I worry that Star Wars and the MCU are very different for a reason, and so look, the guy's got nothing but a winning resume, and I can't go into it negative at all. It feels like it's funny. It feels like a safe move, and
It's very safe.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so look, I'm excited to see where he takes it. I don't even know. They haven't given. There's no real details as to even what he's going to do. Is he going to produce a movie?
Nope.
Is he going to take over? What you do with a Kevin Feige is you have him take over your story group, and that's a little bit challenging, just simply because he did such a great job. I mean, I don't know how much of it is retconned or whatever, but the fact that things show up in a movie 10 years before it happens is amazing with the MCU.
It's insane. It's insane.
The man knows.
Let's see here. Sorry, I was going to say, according to Star Wars News that I was just looking it up, he is developing a new Star Wars movie.
Okay.
Wow.
But again, that's all the detail we have.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, so what might be interesting would be to put him in charge of a new trilogy or something like that. But no, I'm excited to see anybody take on Star Wars. I have nothing but confidence in what the direction they've gone so far, and I think if you give him the right thing, it could be nothing but great. My only other question would be is what does this do to all the other projects that are already on the table? This would be 7 Star Wars movies that we're familiar with, and in a very short order.
Yeah.
Plus Cassian Andor, Mandalore 1 and 2,
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, so
Right.
it's
That's Obi-Wan Kenobi right there.
there he is.
Oh, yeah.
Come here.
Come on, Obi.
Come here.
But it's do we? I don't know. I mean, Feige. I'll tell you what he was able to do that Lucasfilm hasn't been able to do recently, and that is be able to create the excitement for multiple movies in a year, and that's
impressive.
Yeah. That is it. If they could go down that route, I really do think it would be. And it depends on how they do it. But for Star Wars, I think they could kind of benefit from something like that. Maybe, I don't know.
They are. They said they're cutting back with the Star because they've realized, at least Bob Iger. If I'm not saying the quote correctly, correct me. But he was saying something about how they've realized that Star Wars is not Marvel.
right.
And so that's why they're kind of going to the 1 a year thing. And Pete, to your question about the where does this kind of land on the schedule? Who I'm trying to think of. I'm going to give the shout out to Scott Gibson, one of our buddies from Celebration, and on Twitter there, who he kind of said something, and I kind of agree with. We've got, writers in Benioff and Weiss. We've got a producer in Kevin Feige.
Yep.
We've got a director in Ryan Johnson. Who are we to say that it's not maybe kind of combined? I know Ryan kind of does his own thing, but
Yeah.
he might try to play ball in order to maybe get more people kind of back on his side. No, I don't think it's a huge majority of people who aren't on his side, but
Well,
minority.
yeah. Well, I think what might be an interesting thing is that somebody. I wish I kept better track of tweets like you guys do, but and it might have been one of you guys that said it. Is that we are coming to the end of sort of essentially phase 1 of the Star Wars
You're right.
universe, and so who knows what if they relaunch it, they could relaunch it with Feige and Benioff and Weiss and Ryan Johnson and 3 TV series, 4 TV series, and I don't know. I mean, I think we are entering a different place, and I also really firmly believe that we might see that Star Wars is a story that is told better in an 8 to 10 part Disney Plus series. And
Damn right.
I mean, think about it this way: The Mandalorian, when that hits, we are essentially going to get an entire trilogy in a 3-month period.
It's insane,
right? I mean, it's the same amount of
it's
content
never been done before.
that we would get for 3 movies. You're looking at 8 to 10 hours, which is 3 movies in one sort of batch. So that's there's no shortage of content. The question is, how do we make sure it stays? How do they? Not we. We don't have to do it. Luckily, we just have to talk about it. How do they make sure it stays that high quality? And maybe Feige's coming in for that, just to make sure it all stays at a high level.
Well, funny enough, you say that. I was looking at when his appearance was on the Star Wars show, and I mean, you could always make connections, but that could have been whenever he was in for an interview or
Right.
just for a discussion with Kathleen. But he was in there for Infinity War for the Infinity War. I guess whenever that was releasing in 2018,
Right.
and then the Russo brothers showed up. And you could really pass this off as a marketing campaign, but the Russo brothers showed up, in 2019. So and you never know who could be affiliated with these products. I mean, I would love to get a Russo brother directed or written, Star Wars product. I think that'd be just amazing. But there's a lot to be really hashed out there, and I think for the better. I think his involvement might be something we're very thankful for in 10 years from now.
Yeah,
but
I don't know if you guys saw my tweet. I think the timing was very funny. Was the Bob Iger goes and releases that interview, which sort of put
memoir.
George, yeah, right. Puts George in
Lord.
so the
Throws
fandom,
another log on the
right.
flame.
The fandom
Yeah.
gets a little bit crazy, saying things, everything from well, he didn't have to do George's stories to see. We told you, and then I was like, and then Bob's like, hey, you guys like Kevin Feige, don't you? And just throw it. So stick with me. I'll get you Kevin Feige.
That's awesome. No, that's true,
awesome.
though. I agree with that. One other thing we got this week, we got a lot of really good screenshots. I think they're screenshots. I mean, they look like the screenshots from the movie. But Mandalorian, The Rise of Skywalker from Empire Magazine. And just today, we actually got a new... we record on Sundays, by the way, for our listeners. We got a new shot of Kylo, and he's like... force holding the ground, and all these stormtroopers are being blown back by this blue light. I have no idea what that could mean, but we also got a shot of the Knights of Ren. We also got this really awesome shot of the Mandalorian, and it's him looking out of the Razor Crest.
Well, careful. Should we get you a cold shower real quick there, Scotty? Or something?
Yeah, I need one because I'm gonna get hot and sweaty up in here about the Razor Crest. But no, we got a bunch of really awesome stuff. I want to hear your take on it, Jerry. What do you think of everything being dropped? And hopefully the full article comes out. I believe it's the 3rd, which is going to be Friday, maybe, or Saturday. I don't remember. Thursday. That's when the full article drops, and I am not gonna lie. I'm jonesing to read that thing. I am
dude.
dying to. You know it's gonna be good,
Dude, well, gosh, I believe it was Black Series Rebels had a tweet this morning, and I kind of retweeted it and said something about it too, and commented on it. But I'm trying to think. I think Alex is usually the one who runs their stuff, but he kind of said he's all this stuff being released from Empire Magazine. It helps him feel like he did for when The Force Awakens was coming out.
Oh yeah,
right? Because Alex and Steve, they kind of like to play that shtick of it is what it is, and we're not gonna get too excited. I love that. I love what they do over there. But they, he was talking about how, man, it's getting me really excited, and seeing these the screenshots of the Knights of Ren, and especially waking up this morning, seeing that shot of Kylo Ren force holding the ground because Palpatine
whatever's
unknown
happening.
regions or
whatever.
Honestly, it's probably someone black. It's probably
Leaving.
going out of the
Hangar.
end of the hangar bay. Big speed or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? It could be Palpatine doing a sweet kickflip or something. Knocks them all on their butts, But it's just, oh gosh. Guys, the title of this episode, I thought, I don't know what it's going to be anymore, because I was pitching to Scotty that it was going to be the calm before the storm. There's no calm this week. I mean, it's just single day, something huge is dropping. And so it's just going to be from here on out, guys. I mean, there's no more slow trickle.
No, hell no.
We've got
this is Force Friday is next Friday, y'all.
Triple Force Friday, man.
Yep.
It is
Frickin'
literally
Force
going
Friday.
to be
Babu frickin' Friday. Oh,
Yeah,
I would die
I don't know
for
how I'm
that.
going to handle
I
that. I'm
didn't-
going to be at New York Comic Con on Friday, and I'm going to miss
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Target, and so who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, obviously, I think there's on that day there's a Del Rey panel or something worth going to. I'm just going because it's a chance to catch up with some of my local podcasting friends. But it's
Heck
yeah.
yeah.
So you got Comic Con, you got Triple Force Friday, you got probably the I would imagine the trailer's going to be on Monday Night Football. Let's all take a guess. I would say probably the
I can look at the dates.
what's it? Monday is the 6th, right?
After the 5th,
the 7th.
yeah.
No, Monday's the 7th, right? So
Yeah.
I would say I'm going to go with the 14th.
That's
Me
what
too.
that's what I'm kind of leaning towards
Yeah.
as well. So hey, stick close to our YouTube channel. Plug. Today. But dude, no, it's I absolutely agree. I think this, and you've got did we already say Resistance? Because Resistance is starting.
Resistance starts this
shit.
Sunday night, a week
The
from tonight.
final, gosh, Triple Force Friday, and then ending the weekend with more Resistance.
Yep.
Everyone get their rest this week because it's gonna get crazy.
Yep.
And then a month from next week is when the Mando's gonna come out.
Right.
It's just like
And Jedi
I guess
Fallen
a month
Order.
from the
And-
2 weeks. Yes. Oh my God. We're done.
Yeah, I think we all need to
Pete-
just stay in our homes from like November 12th to the end of the year and just buckle in.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, for sure. You need to buckle in because we're gonna our brains are gonna be falling out of our heads by the time this is done, guys. So just prepare.
Well, I was messaging Alex Damon about it because we're gonna. Oh, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything too soon.
you already.
But he said we were messaging each other back and forth, and I'm like, when are you gonna get a break? And he says probably the first week of January. I might go. I might just like sign out for like a week because people like who do daily coverage are gonna need like a week break after December 20th. I mean, I don't know. This is a good point that you bring up, Jerry and Pete, that this is the final week before like everything just comes our way. It's damn.
All hell
Good luck,
breaks
everyone.
loose in
Good
the
luck,
best
everyone
way
involved.
possible.
Right.
Oh,
We're not
it's
gonna-
going to be crazy.
From here on out, none of us are going to be able to focus on anything in our lives.
No.
So just.
No.
I guess this is our apology right here.
Right.
Yes. To all of those lovely people in our lives here.
You just
We
won't see
just
us
start-
till after Christmas.
We're just on Batu right now.
Yeah.
Batu, we're here. Real quick before we move on to anything else, Scott, I don't know if we want to touch on something that I think is something that's been a long time coming. I think we could all agree on this with the announcement of Deborah Chow directing
Yes.
Obi series, and just how awesome is it? That's something that I know a lot of people in fandom, we've all been kind of like thinking about, like, hey, where's the female directors? Where are we need people of color. We need female directors. Come on. And I know I heard the same thing when Kevin Feige was announced. People were like, oh, another white guy. And
Yeah.
I get it. And it is kind of like, I mean, when are they going to do it? But then, of course, we never know. Guys, they probably have like 50 levels deep of announcements that they
Yes.
to us
We
at
have
any
no
given
idea
time.
about.
And they're just doling it out whenever like they want to. And that's how it should be.
Right.
I think we can all just say that it's been a long time coming, and I am very excited. I was looking what's her what are her projects that she's worked on before? I heard she did Better Call Saul, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a great show.
What else does she work?
I frankly don't know, to be honest with you, Jerry, but I can tell you this much. For them to have this much confidence, and I did read one tweet that I thought was very peculiar. I don't remember who the person who tweeted it was, but it's someone that had worked on Mandalorian, and they said that they only cried during 2 days of shooting. It was the first day where Dave Filoni was on there because it was a very special interaction that happened, which I wonder, that's the first episode, what could really happen.
Right.
And then they said the other day they cried on during set is when Deborah directed a very particular scene.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know what that could mean for The Mandalorian, but
Okay,
if
you
I
guys
can trust
ready?
and
You guys
Yeah,
ready?
yeah, let's
Here we
see.
go.
Sure, yeah.
IMDb is the the savior of podcasts. Here we go.
One of the oldest websites, too.
She did The Mandalorian, of course, we were just talking about. Better Call Saul, American Gods, Mr. Robot,
Oh, I heard her Mr. Robot
Man in the
episodes
High
are amazing.
Castle, Lost in Space, Jessica Jones.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, Iron Fist. Well, maybe I shouldn't have said Iron Fist. She's got a very good repertoire ahead of her.
Oh, apparently.
I'm very excited. I am ready to see what she brings to Star Wars, and I'm ready this is just the beginning, guys. Let's get more of the female voices in here because they're here, man. I'm sorry. The women fans are here. They've always been here for the most part. So, let's go. So anyway,
I agree.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the series, and Pete, I'd imagine you are as well, right?
No, I don't want to see any of it. I'm gonna.
Okay, cool. So,
No, I was excited for The Mandalorian. I was not at Celebration, so I wasn't in the room for their panel. But that if that trailer doesn't make you excited to watch a show, period, like you don't even need to be a Star Wars fan to be like, this is something I got to see. So.
Yeah,
and she's doing Kenobi, man. So that's going to be
it's huge.
And it's funny too how many fans have just fallen absolutely in love with Obi-Wan, and over his character has grown in fandom over the last several years, and I think her touch on that, based on that resume alone, holy cow, will be amazing.
Yeah. Completely agree. Well, funny enough, it's a great way to kind of transition to the next discussion, the main discussion. I know we seem like we're running a little bit over time, Pete. We still got you for a little bit longer.
Sure,
Is that okay?
as long as I don't die with this cough, that'll be fine.
There we go. No, it's not that bad. Well, with all these announcements being said, there's one thing that really has to be brought up, and it's just this thing that I guess people can dub the Disney era of Star Wars. And I frankly don't see a difference in the ownership, because the only difference is the fact that we're getting new stuff. With George, we might not have gotten anything that new and refreshing. But with that being said, I want to touch base on all the things that we've seen since 2012, in October of 2012, when it was first announced that, we would be getting new Star Wars content. This new era was brought in by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and the people that are affiliated with those things. And I'm just thankful for Bob Iger, nonetheless. He's done nothing but good things for Disney. And I want to know, what were you doing? Pete, I want to hear yours, because I might have heard Jerry talk about it before. But Pete, where were you when you first heard about that acquisition in 2012?
Yeah, so we were hit by Hurricane Sandy here up on the East Coast. I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And we were without power for a 10-day period, and my son was literally a couple months old, and so my wife and my kids were staying at my brother-in-law's house, who had power, and I was staying in our home, much like you, Scott. We had just bought the house. We were only there about a year.
Yeah.
And so I think I was feeling like I was waiting for the zombie apocalypse. I was just sort of staying in the house and stuff. And I remember checking my phone and zipping through Facebook, and I think that's where I saw the news, and I was like, this is going to be good. And in fact, every October 30th, that tweet comes up, that post comes up on my Facebook, the memories thing, and my response was very positive. I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, this is good. Because one of the things that I had said, because remember, we went through this whole prequel hate, which is so funny now because it feels so almost friendly compared to where we are now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still believe in one way or another that the first line of the Force Awakens is a tip of the hat to the prequel haters saying, this will begin to set things right. I think this is, I think that line is kind of like, all right, guys, just follow us on this journey, and we promise we'll bring it where you want to go. But I remember during the prequel times, and look, I'm a reformed prequelist, as I think Ken Knapsack calls himself, and I had issues with them, but I think they've aged incredibly well, and they've done so much for the story, and they mean more now than they ever did, and But I had said at that, in sort of that dark time that we were talking about before, it would be great to see other storytellers play in George Lucas's toolbox. And so I was really excited that it was going to Disney. Of course, at that time we didn't know who was going to be doing the film or anything like that. So all we knew is that there was more stuff coming, and that was really exciting. But there's an interesting point of view that I hadn't thought about. And I don't think I don't think it really affects me that much, but it's a really interesting perspective. So when Scott Chernoff was on my show, Scott was the editor-in-chief of Star Wars Insider. He loves all the Disney era stuff. However, he refers to it as Star Wars fan fiction. Now, he says it in a very loving way, and what I'm going to try to interpret it for him, and obviously that's not my place, but in that these are stories that this is the next wave of stories. But they're not told by George. So it's George's initial vision, and now others have taken it. And I think that that's actually a great thing. And I think that that's why it's really probably almost good that we are closing down this Skywalker saga and just letting this storytellers tell their own stories.
Yep. I mean, that's one thing I really agree with. Is it's like, with the inclusion of Favreau, which we can get into later, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, and and trust me, I love Solo and Rogue One and all the saga movies, but to finally get something that's like purely new, like completely new, is going to be so refreshing for us as take people that take in the content, as also people that report on it, people discuss it. It's going to be such a cool thing to be able to, hang out and talk about. No longer have to worry about Luke and Leia and Obi-Wan and Kylo and Rey. It's gonna be cool.
And if your Phantom Menace perspective truly is that you're not happy with what they did with Luke Skywalker, that will no longer be a legitimate argument, because it will be done. Those stories are going to be done. We're going to be December 20th this year. We're done, and it's time to move into other parts of the Star Wars fandom, and I can't wait for that.
You can look past it.
Right? I am so interested to see the landscape of fandom after Rise of Skywalker comes out, because what is that going to look like? Like where are we going to be?
Right.
Like are there what kind of I hope there are no more factions, but that's a little idealistic of me probably, but.
It's for that reason that I'm sorry, Jerry, but that's why I'm a little surprised that these three series are still in that time frame. Mandalorian is only tangential to the Skywalker saga, but Obi-Wan, he was. You don't get somebody who's more part of that saga without the name Skywalker than him, and you. Even the Cassian Andor, but I guess they can do it just sort of a straight up Rebels kind of series. So. I'm sorry, Jerry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. I mean, that's that's just something I've been thinking about for this entire kind of walk to the Rise of Skywalker and stuff is what. And maybe we'll do like a state of the fandom address in January or something, But I don't know. Like it's interesting. We've been on this road for so long, and it's because we're on this road that me and Scott were talking and said, we really just kind of needed to like talk about this, because I don't know about you guys, but I've been so nostalgic for the Disney era. Like it feels.
It's weird.
Just started, but 2012? This has been like 7-8 years of our lives.
Yeah.
Here we are reaching the end of the sequel trilogy.
Well, one thing, and I don't mean to be self-absorbed here, but like I was a junior in high school, and my entire like upper education level of my life has been nothing but. I just graduated in May from college, and like everything I've been through has coincided with school, and it's been very odd to see, people around my campus wear Star Wars shirts, and like a resurgence of this love. And like when the acquisition happened, I was in high school. I remember I was sitting outside, and I had heard about it, or we were in class, and someone had mentioned it because we had laptops in class, and it was like, whoa, this could really mean a lot of things, and everyone on the table talked about what it could mean, and that was that. And I remember this little fire inside of me, very small fire, was lit. Because later that day, I think I pulled out either a DVD or a VHS of A New Hope, and I put it on, and it was like, this is cool. I mean, I'll get this again, you know. And I don't know about you, Jerry. What was that like initially for you?
Well, you know, the cool thing about just this resurgence of everything. You know, you said you were a junior when it came around. So your
Junior in high school.
career, yeah. Your entire college career was Star Wars. I just got married. I had just gotten married in 2013, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
my entire marriage has been like, hey, Star Wars is back and stuff, and and just to kind of see that resurgence of the fandom had not really gone anywhere, but it definitely had like reached a point where like I was watching Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But that's about it. And then here, none of us ever thought that there would be more. And now here it is,
No.
there's more.
Yeah.
And even now, the Skywalker saga feels like an end. But there's more.
They've set it up like it.
So much more coming. And it was just, I don't know, it changed. It definitely changed my life.
Yeah. No,
and we're still waiting on the
where
jury to see if it was for the better. So,
well, the thing, like, no, with you saying how it's you're nostalgic about it. I mean, let's be real. And I don't know, I can't speak on Pete's behalf, but Jerry and I would not be here doing the show, or at Celebration together, or even have met each other if it was not for this acquisition.
Right.
Now, Pete, I don't know if you've been wanting to make a Star Wars podcast since 2011, but like, I mean, why else did we start doing this? Let's be completely honest.
Right.
Because we love what they've done. I absolutely love almost every little thing they've done.
Well, and that's
the books.
Yeah.
All of it. It's just wild.
Well, that's the genius of it, is they have they've rekindled sort of this interest that we all have, and I've gotten to know you guys through Twitter, and these are people that I'm paying $78 for a ticket to Comic-Con so I can meet a handful of people that I've only met either on my podcast or over Twitter. So so it's really they've captured that, and they've done a really nice job, and I think that's where their challenge right now is with this fan base split, this challenge that we talked about at the beginning, is how do they work through it. I'm not saying they're going to fix it. They shouldn't even probably try to fix it. It's probably not worth their time and money to attempt to mend those fences, but it's they've done just a great job of giving us enough stuff. And the thing that I as a parent of a 10 and 7-year-old, the thing that I'm most impressed with, and I've had the opportunity to talk about this with many people, is how they've so intelligently used so many different doors to open it to different levels of fandom. Whether it's my 7-year-old son who loves Resistance because it's done in a style that he totally digs. He loves that cartoon style. Or my daughter, who even before she saw The Force Awakens, went up and made her own Rey costume and associated with that character brilliantly.
Awesome.
So just that. They've done just such a great job of letting us all in at whatever doorway we want to come in.
I mean, yeah. It's like, it's very weird because a lot of things kind of never died and then did, like, or if they did die, they came back. Like, fortunately, in our lifetime, we've seen 3 Spider-Man reboots,
right.
And it's like they wouldn't let it. They at no point did you get a break from it, But it's weird with Star Wars. It's the only fandom, and even Harry Potter has had these weird. It's only been 40 years. Let's do a whole nother movie. It's very weird to think that this fandom, having no basis, no real basis, like this is not rooted in an old book, this is not rooted in something else, can still have such a powerful resurgence. And you've got 77 to 83, then a whole long time between there, 17 years. Then you've got 99 to 2005, and then you got a little bit of content between there. Then from 05 to 15, and it's still just as relevant as it was the day it left us. And it's very bizarre. Everyone I knew, mostly, had accepted Star Wars again with open arms. Yep. I've got family members who adore Star Wars that make it a point to talk to me about Star Wars. And I'm getting choked up. It's just like I never thought I would be so deep in a fandom, and I have nothing to thank but Disney for that. And like I have been brought great joy because of this.
Yep.
And insurmountable happiness. It's weird. It's crazy, but I'm thankful. Very thankful.
Yep.
You know?
It's very true. And it becomes real easy to I think, it's the positive side of social media. It allows you to, well, as you were saying, I mean, there's people who've known me my whole life who know that I was a Star Wars nerd at 7 years old in 1977.
Yeah.
And today, those are the new movies that come out. People come to me and they're like, "What do you think? Do you want to go see it with me?" It's just so it rekindles those relationships as well. So.
I love that, and I'm glad that everyone in this conversation right now can share that experience, And the craziest part is, the second this other movie comes out, the show comes out, you'll know who'll be talking about it. I'll probably be texting Jerry, or people will be liking my tweets. Yep. It's just it's so awesome that through this, I've made friends and lifelong friends, and I've made connections with people that I've never would have spoken to otherwise, and it's just. That's the one thing I will say is, if you don't like the movies, well, you don't like the movies. You don't like the shows, you don't like the shows. Right. But you can't deny one thing. It has made people happy again.
Yes.
And happy to go to the movies again. Because there was a while where I really wouldn't go to a movie. I would see a Marvel movie, yes, but that's it, you know? And it's weird. It's like there's very few movies I would see 8 times in theaters, but damn it, I would go see The Force Awakens again if it came out again. Because it was such a powerful moment, and I guess we can get into that too. I mean, whenever The Force Awakens, and this is something I've been thinking about all week, and I want to hear your opinion, particularly Jerry, on this, because I'll never forget exactly where I was, how I felt, how I didn't think I'd cry, but I did, when that first trailer was released on Black Friday of 2014 for The Force Awakens. Jerry, what was that for you?
Well, I was actually, I live in Michigan now, but at the time, we hadn't moved up. We moved up in 2015 in June, right before the Force Awakens release. So, but we were up here visiting family. And so, it was Thanksgiving. We were kind of over at one of Allison's grandparents' house. And everyone was kind of talking, and I forget how I found out, but somewhere through social media I found out they released a trailer, and I go off and watch it, and then I showed it to other people, and I couldn't. It was so.
I couldn't believe it.
Finally getting something, and all of those crazy images of BB-8 through what we now know as Nema Outpost. At the time, everyone's like, "It's Jakku," or no, it's
Tatooine.
Yeah. Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku? That's weird. Anyway, and just that, there's been an awakening. Have you felt it? And just the thing, and some of Allison's, one of Allison's uncles and his kids, like her cousins, they're pretty big into Star Wars. I of course. Am consumed by it, but but it was cool to be there with them in that moment too, and go hey, look at this, and to share that, and that's what I think we connect with most people. Might think, why are you so head over heels for a movie? It's not necessarily the movie; it's how it makes us feel, and it's how it allows us to connect with people. And,
it's crazy,
and make these just memories that we'll have forever.
I mean, I can't agree more with what you said, because, actually, before I say anything, I want Pete, what was that initial feeling for you? Because it had to be, for someone who grew up seeing the Falcon as a 7-year-old kid, to then see it again at whatever age you were. It had to have been such a magical experience. Because for me, I was 5, and I just knew those things existed before then.
Right.
But for you to be in that theater as a little boy, then to be a grown-ass man, to see the Falcon fly back up, it had to have done something to you. Had to.
Well, when I was on Postcards for the Galaxy's Edge a couple weeks ago, we talked only about trailers. And that trailer was brilliant because it did for me what it needed to do, which was it showed you enough of, it made it enough of reminiscence as well as enough of getting you excited for what was coming. We had no idea, and just to see the Falcon, I can't tell you how many times I watched that. I watched it on the Apple on my Apple TV with the trailers channel, and I watched it over and over and over and over and
So
over
awesome.
again, and I was just excited, and I think I was more excited to see the new Stormtroopers, and but it was just so great. There was nothing wrong with that trailer other than the fact that I thought for sure it was Benedict Cumberbatch doing the voiceover.
I remember that was the big thing. No, I mean, one thing I will say, and I don't mean to get super sappy on y'all, but so my grandfather, he had struggled with, he had fought cancer since 2002, and we were all actually in Houston at MD Anderson, there, and he wasn't dying at that point, which was really fortunate. He was actually doing pretty well. He was getting he was getting treatment, but we were like, well, we're not going to have it at home without him. So we all drove to Houston, and my cousin Troy, who's a listener of the show, he's been on the show before. We were all together, and he was sitting there, and he was playing Pokemon on his 3DS, and I was sitting next to him like, dude, I said, tomorrow, right now, we can talk about Star Wars again. He's like, I know, man. And I'll never forget exactly where it was. I woke up, I believe it was, it must have been about 7:30, and and it was Black Friday, and my stepmom and my dad had just woken up, and we were in a hotel, and I'll never forget, I ran to the bathroom, and I didn't want to wake them up or wake them up more, and I sat in the bathroom, and I watched it, and it was the first time a trailer's ever evoked so much emotion in me. Yeah. I remember going, yes. I said, what? This is crazy. Right. So I watched it over and over again, and I remember going back in there and showing my dad, and he was like, dude, that's going to be awesome. And it was like a relationship thing had ignited again, something had lit back up again inside of me and him. It was like this thing he had taken me to go see as a kid, is now back, and it's so weird to think that, but I've never been more excited for anything in my entire life than I think I was for The Force Awakens. Right. And truly, because it was so new, and you saw Harrison again, and you knew Carrie would be back, and it was just so, I don't know, I'm just so happy still with what we got.
Absolutely.
It's wild, and that, I think the one thing that still sticks with me the most is BB-8 rolling. I think that was the most shocking and well done thing in that whole trailer. The TIE Fighters and the Falcon were great, but that was the first refreshing thing that I saw. I was like, that is so new and unique in Star Wars. They really nailed it, and I had no doubt in my mind the movie would be great at all. But anyway, I don't mean to change the subject so harshly, but do y'all happen to have a favorite thing so far of everything that's been put out, movie or book or anything in particular?
If I may, real quick, then I'll hand it over to you, Pete. Mine's got to be The Last Jedi still.
I agree. I mean, that's one of my favorites too.
You know what? I honestly, I'll try to be respectful of other people's opinions and stuff. Art is subjective. We like what we like, but the whole idea of going to watch a Star Wars movie and not knowing where it was going to go, and to have the pleasure of being surprised and not knowing which way it was going to go, and to I had never had that, because even when I watched the original trilogy back when I was a kid, it was kind of just common knowledge in the ether that Darth Vader was Luke's father, and then watching the prequels, what's going to happen through there. It's the story of how Anakin became Darth Vader. It's just and I love the prequels. I know people are kind of like, well, we got to see. We don't really like to see how so and so became the way so and so is, or we know what happens to him. I still like them, but it was just such that throne room scene. The first time I saw it,
Unreal.
My jaw was on the floor, and we were all in there, like, pumping our fists. Those cousins and Allison's uncle I was talking about were there with us in the theater. We were, like, just pumping our fists. And, like, Allison's, one of her cousins had said to me, she was kind of, like, starting to really go towards Raylo and stuff. And she's like, oh, you'll see Ray and Kylo are going to team up. Like, never will it happen. Then like, it happened. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
definitely.
Never again will I question, and never again am I going to be like, that won't happen, because who am I to put handcuffs on great storytellers? But that's mine still. And just, gosh, remembering that opening night and the way we felt whenever, spoilers, if you're listening to this podcast, who cares? But, whenever Kylo, that whole sequence where, like, Kylo is doing everything, like, Snoke thinks he's turning the light to strike Rey, and he's turning I know people are like, oh, that's a little hanging fruit, but to me that was just, I loved every single second of that. And I still get nerdy thinking and talking about it right now, as you can tell. But Pete, man, what has been your favorite release so far of any of the new content?
Yeah, I think my favorite piece of content is probably still The Force Awakens. I think I can watch that on a dime. I can drop and watch that whenever. Although I think I would say, as I look at across all four of the films, I would say each one of them has just sort of like very specific moments. I mean, I think one of the things that I loved about the reason I love The Force Awakens so much was just that whole opening sequence. You were thrown right back into Star Wars. You had the little droid.
That's so true.
You had the humor, and I've talked about this on many shows, many different people on my show and elsewhere. But when you see Star Wars in a movie theater, there's humor, and when I still think one of the best lines is when Poe says, "So who talks first? You talk first. I talk first. It's just hard to hear you with the apparatus." Like that's brilliant. That's brilliant, and that's hilarious. But it was Star Wars, so I felt like I think the beginning of, if I had to pick a piece, the opening sequences of The Force Awakens were fantastic, and then. Hearing Rey's music as she slid down the sand hill was just like, okay, we've captured the music part, we've captured the essence of the film, the way it looks, the spirit, and we're in good hands here. But I loved Rogue One, I loved Solo, I loved the Last Jedi. So it's really funny. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of books and comics that come out. I can't keep up with them. Thank God for Star Wars Explained and Tarkin's Top Shelf.
Yes.
Without those, I would not be able to keep up. But
and Newsnet,
and of course,
Newsnet. I mean,
they're amazing as well.
Cool.
Yeah, Kyle Larson does amazing work there.
He's amazing.
So, but yeah, it's I would say the opening sequence of The Force Awakens. If I had to pick a piece, if I couldn't just say all of it.
No, I'm somewhere in the middle between y'all, because there's this really cool longing to see the old characters do their thing, and I think that was the most thrilling part for me, was to see Han be Han, right. And to see Carrie, to see Leia be Leia again, and they painted Leia perfectly. I really can't wait for the Rise of Skywalker to see what they did with her then, but for Luke to be the way Luke is, a lot of people, and I don't mean to defend what Ryan did or what they're doing with Luke, but let's be honest, all Luke knows as a Jedi is to run away and hide. Yoda did it. Obi-Wan did it. I mean, it's so weird, but he just learned through his fault, and that's the first thing I got out of The Last Jedi. I thought, well, you know what? Luke is no better than the people that trained him, and that's okay, because that's who trained him.
But that's the Jedi. That's what we learned over 40 years of film.
Yes.
The Jedi way is pacifist, and and I think that's why people are so angry at The Last Jedi, is because Luke didn't come out and battle, and the way he won was by not he helped, that he did everything that he needed to do by not sacrificed himself, but he didn't attack anybody. He just waited and did what he needed to. He did everything perfectly.
And I think that's what I like about Kylo the most. And if I'm going to say anything, the best part about the sequel trilogy is this horribly conflicted and complicated character. And whenever I listen to John talk about it, John Hoey's like, I hate that word complicated, you know? I wish he was just bad for being bad. But, like, you know, that's what we get Palpatine for. And we're going to see that probably amazing resolution in The Rise of Skywalker. But to have such a character that everyone can understand, you know, like you want to do good, but you can't help but to do the thing that's easiest, you know, and it's like I love Kylo for that reason, because there's people that you meet in your real life that are a lot like that, you know. You want them so well to do good, people that struggle with addiction, but they might not, and they might come around to it, you know, and it's just this really cool storytelling that we've ever had a character like that in Star Wars. It's always been very straightforward. You got Luke, who's super good. Yep. You got Vader, super bad.
Right.
And for Vader to be the first person to go on this other side, but now we see the opposite almost. We see light, dark, then maybe light again. I don't know. We'll see how the Rise of Skywalker wraps up. But, like, there's just little things in the sequel trilogy that really kind of just, I feel that are almost unreal that we saw. And one thing I will say, and I don't mean to be going off on a tangent, was Holdo's maneuver. That one sequence, I couldn't have imagined it.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing. Just that silent, you know, cut, and then the noise, and then it goes to Finn and Rose, then to Kylo and Rey, or I guess just Kylo himself, and then it was Leia and Poe. It was just such that one moment. It felt like the movie should have ended there, but it didn't.
Well, that's the weird thing about The Last Jedi.
45 minutes.
It's like it's two movies in one. It is. It's pretty wild, but
it's like a really awesome band who they play a really awesome set and then come back out for an encore.
Right, and it's like a 45-minute encore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they did the whole, you know, it's Pink Floyd, and they're just like, you know what, we're gonna do the whole Dark Side of the Moon for y'all, and they just did, you know, and it's like you sat through all of our other stuff, but let's play Dark Side, you know. It's like it was just such a cool experience to have that for the first time, and I can't wait to be talking about this again in 3 months from now. I'm like giddy. Yeah. It's really it's one thing I will say is Star Wars makes the mundane part of life way more fun, and like I think it does give me life, and the fact that I could, you know, have friends like this to talk to is another thing that I like so much about all this new stuff coming out. It just gives me more. It gives me more life. It's weird. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think I'm just not. I'm not mentally prepared for November through December because there's so much. So we're in a spot where we're going to have more Star Wars than, because running at the same time is going to be Resistance, The Mandalorian. I'm going to be playing Last Jedi Fallen Order until 3 a.m, and then, you know, so it's going to be. It's going to be a crazy time. I mean, and what a time to be alive. And I told Steve Sansweet when I interviewed him on my show that if he had told me and Steve this was coming in the mid-'90s, we absolutely wouldn't have believed it. We would have been excited for it, but we never would have believed it. It's just a great time to be. I'm envious of my children because they're here at the beginning of it, and they're the perfect age for it.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
That is fantastic, man.
No, I completely agree, and I don't mean to. I'm not trying to cut the conversation short, but there's one thing I want to get into, and we've talked about it, actually. The Disney Plus thing. It's this platform that they've decided to go with is going to open so many doors, and I think people that love Disney movies and that, you know, want to have their kids watch some good Disney based products are going to end up exposing their kid to Star Wars for the very first time through this platform. Yep. And I think for people like us, it's a big deal. But for people that are just like, what do you think my son's going to want to watch? I didn't know they had the Star Wars. Okay, perfect. Boom. And then you might have just changed a child's life with that.
Yep.
You know, I think that possibility is just such a beautiful thing, because there have been a lot of things on Netflix that I otherwise would have never have watched if I just didn't give it a chance. Like Russian Doll. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. Yep. But like, I would have never have clicked on that, and if I didn't say, let's watch the first episode, then in love, me and my girlfriend can't stop talking about how much we love that show. So it's I can't wait for that. We're gonna have kids that are gonna come up in 20 years and say, the first time I ever watched Star Wars was because of the Disney Plus. And it's going to feel so surreal.
Well, if you would have gone back to like either right before the Disney acquisition or even like you could have even gone up to some people before Force Awakens comes out and been like, hey, you know what? And here in a few years, Disney's going to have a streaming service and it's going to have every single Star Wars movie ever made on it.
And more.
Can you no, that's not going to happen. They're so precious with it. They're never going to like put it on something where you can just easily throw it on and I mean, gosh, I don't know. It's just so surreal that here's where we are. And you're right, Scott. There's going to be an entire generation who, I watched it on VHS the first time.
Yep.
Me too.
And we're going to have an entire generation who's like, no, I streamed it.
Yeah.
So it's such crazy times we're living in right now, guys. It is only going to get crazier.
Without a doubt.
So, Scott, and Pete, I'll talk to both of you here. We're about to enter into this final chapter of the Skywalker saga, and I think it's got more than just us nostalgic. I think we're all nostalgic. We had a few people write in on our Bombadcast Twitter posts, and I think we should get into some of those listener reactions here. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the general of positivity, Neil Lowry himself. Neil Positivity for All, at Lowry Neil. If you guys out there aren't following, if you're on Twitter and you're listening to this podcast and you don't follow Neil, what are you doing with your life, man? He is the king of positivity. And anyway, glad to have you on here, Neil. Neil says, Tuesday, October 30th, 2012, Disney buys Lucasfilm. I'll always remember seeing the news on TV. Ignited my fandom. And we hear that a lot. I feel like it reignites my fandom. It ignited. And I feel like some people can take that to mean, oh, so you weren't that big of a fan. You weren't following. No. We were, seriously, we were all like still kind of following stuff. But the movies were over. It was kind of like, man, back to life. And
right.
I still love this thing. I take it off the shelf and hug it every once in a while.
Yeah.
But to see that, it was just like, it essentially took Star Wars from you're just a film fan to my wife kind of sees like over the last few years of our marriage, Celebration comes around. It's like that's my Super Bowl.
Right.
And it's become almost like now it's almost like we're sport. I know a lot of us are sports fans as well as Star Wars fans, but it's become more, I think, akin to being a sports fan and a Star Wars. It's almost in the same vein.
Yep.
Weirdly enough, you're not wrong. I completely agree with that, man. It's kind of cool because, you've got these people that will really go all out for it, and I know we'll see you in Anaheim, Pete. I know you've brought it up.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a one-way ticket, make it happen.
I'm there, man.
I hope
I'm there. Yeah.
One way, hopefully 2 ways.
I've already
I've
already got the 4-day pass and for all 4 members of the family. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Fantastic.
Oh, Pete, awesome, dude.
It's gonna be a blast.
Well, I know we're going to meet back up, and the best part about it is these people that you meet online, you talk to online almost every day. Seeing them in person is probably one of the best experiences you'll ever have.
I can't wait.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
You guys are going to be like, he seems so nice on Twitter, but he's a real dick in person. No, I'm just kidding. God, I hope not. No, I'll be with my family. I'll be all right.
You'll be on your best behavior. That's right.
That's right. No,
I completely get that. No, we had another write-in real quick. I'm sorry. Our good fan Anthony Goodwin at Ant Goodman said, "My best moment from the Disney era of Star Wars is Rey saying the words, 'The garbage will do.' Enter that big, beautiful piece of junk to save the day. That moment gave me the biggest shit-eating grin." I'll never forget that either. It was such a great. And then they played the
Yes.
It was so awesome.
I think I went. I was with my wife, and it was like a quiet. Look, I couldn't get tickets to like the opening night of Force Awakens because like the internet broke.
Right. This
It
is
was
right.
insane.
And I was so bummed because I wanted to be. So we went to a matinee at a local IMAX here that day, and it was just a bunch of like older like to not be nice, a bunch of more elder people, and my wife and myself, and I got sick during the screen. Like I got a
Oh
full
no.
cold.
Really?
Yes, I'm telling you. So like, okay, whenever like Han Solo dies, I started ugly crying in the seat next to my wife. She turns, she goes, "Are you okay?" I was like, dude, I had like 100 fever and stuff. I was sitting in the screen,
Oh
like.
no.
But whenever this happens, I think I think I was audible and I was the only one. Like they turn, you see the Falcon, I went whoo or something. I made some kind of audible noise, and like it was just, gosh, I don't know, it was something. It was special, for sure. That is probably one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite parts from The Force Awakens. One of my favorite parts in all of Star Wars to date, Anthony. So good pick, man.
Yeah, great pick.
Also,
our
you
next
don't
one's
you
from
don't
All
have to
Remaining-
eat any. You don't have to eat any crap, dude. You're good.
No, dude, don't do that, man.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Why are you so smiley about eating a big old turd? I don't know. I'm just playing. Anyway, let's move on.
So the next one's from All Remaining Systems, Michael at Local First Order. This one's great. I some of these are some of my favorites too. So every movie in the Disney era has had at least one moment that made me freak out in the theater, and I've freaked out before in the theater before too. It is Rey taking the lightsaber for The Force Awakens, and
Yes.
and someone mentions that later. I'm pretty sure. Let me see the notes. The next person that mentions that is Benjamin L. Ackers at Chintzy Beatnik. He mentions how Rey calling the Legacy Saber and the use of the Return Home music, it's like the violin. Oh, it's so good. And he says the music from A New Hope.
feeling it
as
right
she
now.
gets called to adventure.
Yeah.
No. And how Luke is kind of mirrored with Luke too. You know how that call for adventure happens. I agree. That moment in TFA is just like absolutely top tier.
Still gives me chills to this day.
The next moment is Rogue One, the Vader hallway scene.
Oh yeah.
Lord, that was wild.
Oh my goodness, that entire final act of that movie is just.
Well, Pete,
Oh.
I want to ask you,
Yes.
as someone who saw the original in theaters back in '77, how was that ending for Rogue One for you? Did it feel like this odd circle that was completed that you like did not intend on ever like completing?
Yeah.
It had to have felt very
Yeah, it
weird.
felt a little. It only felt weird because I was like, how are they making that look like Princess Leia so much? But no, I thought it was cool because it was. I literally, like probably so many of us, went home and then turned on A New Hope just to like make that connection.
Yep.
I was so happy
Right.
when somebody made that sort of 13-minute version of the end of Rogue One into A New Hope.
Yes.
It was so cool. Yeah.
Yes.
It was, I think Rogue One is the movie that I didn't know I needed until I got it.
Damn right.
When I heard about it, I was like, really? Do we need this? We got it in the opening crawl, and I was like, holy cow, this movie was so good on so many different levels. The space
I
battle at
agree.
the end is phenomenal.
That's top tier Star Wars.
Man, real quick, you mentioned the Leia DH, or just the actress they had that they kind of like made into young Carrie Fisher. That was okay. My wife was with me. Rogue One, she felt was a little too inside baseball for her. Until
I can
little
see
bit,
that.
last little bit, she really because she loves Vader and Anakin.
Yeah.
But that moment, say what you will about the CG and like if it looks cheesy to you in Uncanny Valley, I get it, it's fine.
Yeah.
But my wife turns to me and goes, "How did they do that?"
Yeah.
Like it was like, what is going on? How is that young Carrie Fisher on the screen?
Well,
It's such a
we
cool
can talk about
moment.
this. It is. We can talk about it forever too. But I'll never forget. Same with Tarkin. At least my mom, who had saw, of course, A New Hope back when it was just Star Wars in '77. She asked me. She goes, "How is that dude not dead yet? He was so old in the '70s."
That's funny.
I'm like, "Mom, he died in '94 or whenever." She goes, she was absolutely convinced that it was still the same person. That CG was so convincing on. I think that's my favorite part of Rogue One, to be honest with you, is the fact that they did Grand Moff Tarkin so well, and the voice was perfect, and I really do think it's just so unbelievable that they could pull that off.
And I think if that's, and a lot of people like to complain about that, and if that's your problem with that movie, then maybe you probably shouldn't be spending money on going to see Star Wars movies. If you're putting that much, if you're watching that and thinking, well, boy, that's, are looking for reasons not to love that instead of like I did. I was just so the thing I'll never forget about that is, and we're definitely taking you way over time here, but the thing I'll never forget about that was when I saw his reflection in the window. I was like, oh, that's how they're going to do Tarkin. That's brilliant. That's very smart.
Yes.
And then he turned around and I was like, holy shit, they're going to like do this. And then he just kept staying on the screen, and I just loved it. And yeah, of course we knew it was CG, and we knew it was this, and we knew it was that, but it's a Star Wars movie, man. Just like go and enjoy the movie and just be.
That's what Lucasfilm has always been about, is pushing the boundaries of special effects.
They did
like that.
it.
That was the moment of the sequel of this Disney era. I feel like that they were actually like, we're going to try to push all this forward.
Yep.
Who knows what else they're going to do? I don't know.
John Knoll, baby.
Yeah,
the best.
Yep.
The best. Anyway, the next one they mentioned on here was Snoke's death and Luke on Crate. I agree.
Yeah.
Those two scenes in TLJ were, like Jerry said, just unbelievable seeing it for the first time. And the next one they said, which was, I think, okay, and of course the Luke on Crate thing I couldn't have predicted. A lot of what we saw in TLJ I couldn't predict. But this was as left field as possible, and that was the reveal of Maul and Solo. That was honestly, I couldn't have ever at any point in my life predicted that.
My brain was.
Ever.
I say a lot that my brain gets broken by Star Wars, and that one definitely, like, it was full on like scanners, like just heads exploding, like, and no one else was like, and like, I was actually back in my hometown when I watched Solo, and I was with my parents and with my cousin who actually got me into Star Wars, Joey. He's like in his. He's older now. He's got his family of his own. I don't know if you guys are listening right now, but thank you again for getting me into this stuff. It's your fault.
Yeah.
But we're talking afterwards. He's like, "Was that Maul?" He's like, "How would that happen?" Because he hasn't watched all the stuff, but he was like, "Oh man, that's cool." It was just so cool to like experience that. And why, my gosh! And they said we would never like they would never dip their toe that inside baseball with the movies. I'm kind of happy they did.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That shows that they're like, look, this all counts. It all counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That
Disney era, man. I mean, that's a good example of it. They're holding you accountable. It's like a good teacher should do.
Exactly.
They're holding you accountable.
Exactly.
So the next one, one thing that we do in the show, Pete, that we actually had an opportunity to ask you, but we'll do this. I have this model of Star Wars. What it's like to you. What is the best? What is your favorite? And what is the most fun? Okay. And Jerry and I've discussed this several times, but this person said the best Star Wars for them is the best moments, really, would be when they killed Snoke. It was such a game changer for the franchise, and I agree. It was Kylo Ren at Knight _ Ray. But yeah, that was unbelievable. That was just, I couldn't believe they actually killed the big baddie. It kind of made no sense. The next one,
I'm going to shout out real quick Kylo Ren, because I believe it's who did our the drawing of George Lucas Kermit. She changed her name to Kylo Ren. Her handle is the same. She was something about her is worried about her thesis or something.
yes.
I hope that went well, by the way. But anyway, no, shout out to you. Like, I still love that drawing. I have it saved on my phone. So anyway, all right, let's move on.
Me too.
I'm giving her tons of props.
She said the most fun part was Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, and I actually have yet to play that one, but I imagine it's very good.
I still haven't got to play
I'm excited
that
for
either. I love the Lego games.
the new game, the whole saga one. That's going to be insane.
That's gonna be great.
But That's going to be amazing. She said her favorite moment ever was the first time she got to hear Ray's theme in the theater. So she said, "Don't at me," but I would agree
No
that's
one
such a
will
special
at
moment.
you. No,
You
everyone
even
loves
brought it
that
up.
theme. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh, it's so good.
It's the Star Wars.
The next
It's the
person.
Star Wars show's theme, for crying out loud.
Yeah. The next thing is Roger at Rogazga, a very avid fan of the show, said this, and it was a gif of Vader in the hallway, and that was Pete. What was that for you, man? What was that like?
That was just again slightly unexpected, but really really wild. But yeah, oh man, there was so much going on, and that was the Vader that was left over from the prequels. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. It was one of those things that like everyone was like, Disney's not gonna make a scary Star Wars movie, and then they throw that scene
Dude,
there.
it was
There's
like
people
watching-
literally screaming for their life.
It was like
just
watching
insane.
Halloween. I'm like, are we watching a Halloween movie? Like, is this my like what is going on? It was set up exactly like a horror movie, like slasher film.
Like a guy slapping on the window to get help. I mean, Jesus, that's scary.
Oh, it's so awesome.
It was I think the part that like sold it for me. Of course, the whole scene's great, and the way the saber and ice really slow is amazing. But it's when he throws the guy up with the force and slices them, and then leaves him there, and then takes everyone's weapons and throws them. It's just like. It's like I just never forget being like what the hell? Like this is the Vader you read about in the comics. You've never seen this Vader.
Yeah.
It's always been something you thought about, but to see it for the first time, yes, Rogazga, unbelievable.
Well, hey, Rogazga, hey, shout out for the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast as well.
So great.
Yes.
Yep, they're awesome.
So okay, our last one is from Haley Meyer at Shapely Puns, a great TRB fan that I've heard on that show several times. They wrote, watching TLJ in the theater, specifically the Kylo versus Luke scene. Luke could have not gotten a more perfect ending, and the shock that he went through the theater when everyone realized he was just a force projection was incredible.
Yeah.
So good.
That was just when he was sitting on that rock and the force theme actually played like all the way through. I think it was just like I still have no words to summarize how I felt about it. It was just so special.
That whole interaction, like that duel, and it is a duel. I know like they never like actually crossed blades technically or touched blades, but Kylo versus Luke is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars now.
Yeah,
That entire interaction, everything Luke and Kylo or Ben says to each other, Kylo's like really trying to double down. No, like I'm going to destroy everything. And just Luke being like, no. Mark Hamill has never been more Mark Hamill in Star Wars than in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
It was just so good. That is seriously one of my favorite sequences in all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It really kind of was one of the first shocking moments too in Star Wars. Besides Snoke being killed, that was the first time I've been like, "Damn, that was very." It might be somewhat controversial as it is, but it was very George Lucas-y. Its own weird right. It's like
I don't think that's
no, it's
controversial. I think Last Jedi is the most George Lucas Star Wars movie we've gotten since the acquisition. Honestly,
I think the thing with the Last Jedi is all the previous 7 films are very galactic in scope, right? They're very large. At the end of the day,
yes,
this is a movie about Rey, Kylo, and Luke. And yeah, there's some crazy stuff on Canto Bight, and there's the Resistance trying to get away, but it's a very small, personal movie, and I think that's what makes it so strange. And really, let's face it, we weren't going to get Luke fighting like he did when he was 40 years younger. This just wasn't going to happen.
Exactly.
And he's a retired recluse old Jedi at this point, and what do you expect from him? So it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic!
It was really great. And I want to say one thing before we end the show very soon. Pete, thank you
from the bottom of our hearts for joining us for so long. We didn't think this show would run almost 2 hours.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Having you on here, thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you having me on. You guys are, I love following you guys, and I love chatting with you on Twitter. It's nice to be able to spend a couple hours on a Sunday night actually saying stuff that it's a lot easier on my thumbs than tweeting back and forth with you guys. This is good.
Exactly.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, seriously. Thank you so much, Pete, for coming on here and hanging out with us. And you're welcome anytime, for real.
Awesome.
But it's just such a crazy time we're living in, and I'm just glad, guys. You have no idea none of us have any idea how blown our minds are going to be.
Oh, at all.
And just again, thank you so much for coming on, Pete, and talking.
It was really my pleasure.
We may try to get Pete on, hopefully in the near future for something that we're going to discuss very briefly before we sign off. Jerry and I have some really big things in the works for y'all, and we actually have just given it a title. And Jerry, you want to announce what it is?
Yes. Well, guys, coming up soon, we have The Rise of Skywalker, a little independent film coming out in December, and we're a new podcast. I was going to say we're a relatively new podcast, but no, we're straight up new. We started this summer, and so one thing we haven't really done is kind of a real deep dive on the saga films. And so we are starting, I'm trying to think, the week of Halloween, we are going to be...
Yep.
Every week from then until Rise of Skywalker, we will be doing what we are calling the Bombad Build-Up to 9, or the Bombad Build-Up to Rise of Skywalker, whatever you want to call it. The Bombad Build-Up is what we are going to do.
Yeah.
And every week we are going to be discussing one of the saga films, starting chronologically with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So guys, stay tuned to our social media. We're going to be dropping some names and stuff of people who are going to be joining us. We're excited about these guests we got coming on. We got some of our old friends, some favorites of people who have been on the show before. And we've got some new people that we're just excited to have come on here and just really, really, dissect these films that have consumed our minds and lives. But also, Scott, one thing real quick, we started today, today is recording, this weekend, as you're listening on Tuesday when we drop this, we started the Bombad Fam, a Bombadcast official group on Facebook.
Facebook.
Yes.
Yep.
So go to Facebook, join that positive community. We've got some great people on there now, but go on there and join the community, kind of get a good conversation going. And you never know, you might be helping us with our research for said Bombad buildup,
Yeah.
Kind of, there's an option, I don't know if you know, on these groups to have a watch party. So we might do some watch parties each week.
We might.
With a build up to episode 9. So guys, come here and then hang out with us, talk with us, and just let's get the good love going. We got a lot of good guests from here on out to the end of the year. So it's all Star Wars gravy. It's green gravy from here on out.
With that being said, one thing I want to do and make sure happens, Pete, where can the wonderful Bombad people find you and get your content?
They can find me on Twitter at ATGcast. That's the best place to find me. I also have a Pete Fletzer account, but I spend more time on ATGcast. And my podcast, Around the Galaxy, is on all the major outlets, and whether it's Apple or Google Play or Spotify or whatever you listen to, you can probably find it there. Or you can always go to atgcast.com to read some of my crazy stuff. You can find my 123,000 word monstrosity, or you can find some strange blog entries, or just listen to some episodes there. So it's all there.
Awesome. Pete, I will say
your show is probably one of the best shows. It's like, imagine if you had the great questions of 60 Minutes, or like the great questions from Larry King, and just having it all in one show and all these special guests. If you're listening to Bombad right now, make sure once this is over, go subscribe to Around the Galaxy. It's part of the Making Star Wars network, and it really is just top tier, fantastic interviews.
I would definitely give you the Larry King of Star Wars.
Yeah,
sure,
I think that's it. I think we've given
I
it.
have
We're gonna
less
get a
wives
picture
than he
of
does,
Pete's.
but
Yes,
Yeah, let's keep it that way.
I think I'll give you that.
we're gonna design a shirt now with Pete Fletzer's face on it, and it's gonna
The
have
Larry
big
King.
glasses and suspenders. It's gonna say Pete Fletzer,
Well,
the Larry King
now
of
I
Star
know what I'm
Wars.
going to have to wear to Celebration. So,
Excellent.
all right, guys.
Jerry, where can the wonderful people find you?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Wow.
Oh, you. Yeah.
Well, I am Jerry the Canon Junkie. You can find me on Twitter at the Canon Junkie. That's my handle. I do this wonderful show every Tuesday. You can find me on the YouTubes and stuff. Think of guys. Come on, think of some better. Think of some more original insults. Come on, make me cry. Make me cry. Bring it on. But anyway, no, guys. What about you, Scotty? Where can the good people find you?
Well, you can find me being the Def Leppard of Star Wars podcasting, much like Pete's the Larry King of Star Wars podcasting, and I'll be posting several things with the Razor Crest whenever we see more footage.
Razor Caress.
But no, find me hashtag Razor Caress. You'll find me on Twitter at the Scotty Jero, and I am Scotty Jero. And for my students listening, please don't follow me. I really don't care, but I'm going to be honest. No, one thing I will say, and I will plug, if you haven't yet, I have a pinned tweet about on my page about a huge, unbelievably long thread I wrote about how I think the big three are going to reunite in The Rise of Skywalker based on old footage that was shot. If you really care to go read it, I think it's a really good write-up, and I'm very proud of it. So it got some good attention, but it needs more. But anyway, Jerry, before we call it a show, there's one thing that you do every episode, and I want to thank Pete one more time. Thank you for being here, Pete. Welcome to the Bombad fam.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. And Jerry, what should the wonderful people at home be doing?
Well, they should go to the Bombadcast on Twitter and follow us at Bombadcast, and also to our group and be asked to be a part of the Bombad fam. But you should also, on top of all of those things, stay Bombad.
You shall all Bombad.